This podcast is brought to you by Infinite Resources, a local staffing agency connecting diverse job candidates in central Iowa companies.
Amplified.
Welcome back to another episode of Black and Privileged in America podcast. Power, love, and money conversations relevant to Black people, sponsored by Infinite Resources. I'm your host, Abena Sankofa. In today's episode, we are navigating the intersection of Black mental health and the challenges of holiday stress. Here to guide us is Breanne Ward, a licensed mental health counselor and a nationally recognized certified rehabilitation counselor. Breanne founded Forward Consulting in 2014 and has been providing mental health therapeutic services in Des Moines, Iowa since 2019. The goal today is to discover ways to prioritize well-being during this festive season. Breanne, welcome to Black and Privileged in America podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Abena. This is such an honor.
Wow, I'm glad you're here. We've got a lot to unpack for, like, me. I'm kind of selfish. This is like free therapy. No, I'm joking.
But real life, though.
Okay. Yeah. But I first, not first. I mean, we've been acquainted for some time, but recently there was the My City, My Health conference here in Des Moines.
Yeah.
And you were a panelist for the mental health panel.
Yes.
And I really found that your contribution, and the other panelists as well, it was really spectacular. And I thought, well, this is a conversation we need to have with the Black and Privileged in America audience. So thank you again.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So what is your specialty? Like, what is your niche? I mean, what part of our minds do you pick or fix?
Well, I started this road out as being a crisis interventionalist. So that means,
I've never heard that phrase.
Yes. So that means that we intervene in crisis. And so I worked at a agency where we just were violent crime responders. And what I realized is that I was burning out pretty thin because we were only capturing the thing on the surface. We couldn't go underneath. So
you were catching people right after some immediate trauma and kind of making sure that they were okay, and that's it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And then you would see them come back, or they were attached some other way to another crisis. And so I went back to school to become a mental health therapist. And so I find that moderate to severe trauma, that's the thing that I know I was purposed to help people through. And how does that happen? Faulty internal messages that are formed because of family dynamics or dysfunction, abrupt family disruption. That's been something that I've enjoyed as well. And so I just like to help.
That sounds funny.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, I get it, but like, I enjoy abrupt family disruption. I know.
I'm sorry. That sounded bad.
Don't be sorry. It's just like, this is a whole different language.
Okay.
A different way of, a different lens through which to look through the world. So I find myself trying to see through that lens. And so some of the language sounds a little different to me. And that's an interesting observation, I think.
Yeah. And why do I say I like to help people through family disruption?
Yeah.
Those are the families that are usually through the cracks. They fall through the cracks. And
there's a lot of those.
Yeah. And so I feel like I'm very helpful in those moments.
Do you find that the families that fall through the cracks have something in common? Like, is it race? Is it class? Is it income? What do they have in common?
Everything you just mentioned.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a huge intersectionality of poverty and ethnicity and zip code.
Yeah. Oh, zip code. Mm-hmm. That's like a social determinant.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Interesting. I mean, so if someone lives in a poverty-stricken zip code, what does that mean for their mental health?
They feel like they have to do it alone, and it is a shame type thing. So I don't want you to add one more layer to me. So I'm going to call it I'm strong, or I'm hustling, or I'm getting it. Okay,
that's all familiar.
Mm-hmm.
In Black communities, those words are seen as kind of like a badge of honor.
Absolutely. I hear the one that I hear often. I'll figure it out, though.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guilty of saying that.
Mm-hmm.
But then we always do, it feels like, right? What are we missing? So, okay, what is it that we don't understand? And by we, the we I'm referring to is Black people. This is Black and Privileged in America.
Absolutely.
So what don't we understand about mental health? Because, like, I get what you're saying as those words, those phrases you mentioned are signs of stress or something going on. But the fact that we see that largely as that badge of honor, what are we not understanding about mental health?
Well, I believe that those badges of honor kept us alive for so long,
Survival.
Absolutely. And so when people are tired of surviving, they want to thrive, then you have to change language and you have to dive deeper. We can't keep normalizing or validating Uncle Johnny, who we know you can't sit near him or sit near on his lap, or we can't keep validating being verbally abused by Aunt Sally. Like, those things have been normalized and validated so often, and then it starts to play with our psyche.
Okay, because see, now you're saying a word.
Hey, now.
It's like when Aunt Sally tells you to come here or is asking, like, when are you going to have babies or when are you going to get married?
Yep.
Culturally, respecting elders is huge. Like,
Yeah.
you answer their questions, you speak when you enter the room, all of these things that are normal in our culture.
Absolutely.
So how do we do that without seeming disrespectful?
I think it's just conversation. And many times,
Now, Black people don't want to talk about anything, girl.
we don't want to talk about anything, but I think there's a way that we can talk about things. Right? So I know for me, what I have found in my short experience of being a professional is that a lot of African Americans that I do therapy with, they're boundless. They don't have any boundaries. They touch and go and do whatever everybody says, which is people-pleasing behavior. And so for me, what I have learned is that I think you can love from a distance. I think that you can create boundaries that are feasible for everyone. And you have to understand how to communicate those. But more importantly, I think silence and distance and using the word no respectfully can change some things for us.
Wow. Okay. Using the word no. I mean, honestly, no is not a hard word to say. It's a totally complete sentence. But in that cultural context, I can see how people would have a hard time with that.
Absolutely. And so that's why we have to help people learn what communication is. What is healthy, what is unhealthy, what is passive, what is aggressive, So, there's ways that we sit down and we rehearse those things with people so they won't just be like in the lion's den.
Yeah. What did COVID do to us? And I mean, in terms of like the pandemic itself,
Yeah.
because the whole world was impacted
Yeah.
by this thing. We were on lockdown for a very long time, limited access to stuff that we're usually used to having access to, isolation, on top of COVID itself and the devastating impact it had on families, on communities, the death and the loss. So what did that do to Black folks?
Woo. Okay. First of all, we know that we are relational people, right? So we get our energy, we get that connection through connecting. And what I found in my practice was that people felt like their connections were dwindling and they were finding out who were their real friends, their real supports, and it was devastating. So I had a lot of African Americans clients who would up their therapy. You can go up to 2 times a week, and that's what they were doing. I also realized that COVID is collective trauma. So, okay, let's rack it up. Black people are a part of historical trauma, which includes slavery and all of the legalistic things that were happening to us as a people. So then you put COVID on it, which is a collective trauma because we all had to go through it, and it magnified or it exaggerated everything that we were already going through.
So all of the existing disparities were multiplied.
My gosh.
Gosh. Okay. So, okay. Now, you mentioned that some of your clients upped their therapy frequency. I know that has a lot to do with access. Having access to you is a barrier for a lot of people. This conversation, we've been talking like 6 minutes, and already I feel like I'm learning so much that I could apply to my life.
Yeah.
So the fact of someone having access to you or a professional like you twice a week seems like a luxury. What is the issue with access? Insurance? Why is it so expensive?
Yeah.
Why does it seem so complicated?
Yeah. Now, this is something I think everyone has a soapbox about in my field.
Get on that soapbox, please, if you have one.
I have one. So here's the thing. Medicaid has been amazing, right? And so we have a new MCO, managed care organization called Molina. However, with that transition, there was some laws that went into effect, or there were some amendments. And so sometimes those amendments mean that you have shortened access to certain services.
Yeah.
Right?
And mental health is probably one of them, because
One of them.
the government does not, I mean, while they make some concession, it's not a priority for them how well we are in our heads and in our minds, right? Is that true?
Especially state benefits. You have this long to get it together, and you better have it together. And if you don't, well, I'm, sorry. But the thing about Medicaid, which I am grateful for, is that it just upped its rates. So they're actually reimbursing us what we are truly worth now.
Oh.
Right. And so when we think
That's
about...
wonderful.
Oh, yeah. So when you think about access, it's just knowledge. Many people don't know you don't have a copay with Medicaid. Many people don't know you get up to 2 times a week. It's just education and making sure people have access to that, and they can utilize their benefits better.
So what about the person, the family member or whatnot, who may be underemployed? So they have a job, maybe it's part-time, and they don't have insurance at all. Yet because they have income, they don't qualify for Medicaid. Can they still come and see you?
Absolutely.
And how much would it cost that person? Because there's a lot of those people out there.
There is. And so we operate from a sliding fee scale. We also are aware of people who give out stipends for people to get free therapy.
That's good to know.
Yeah, Taraji P. Henson has a wonderful foundation, and she helps with that as well. So just got to go out and find the resources.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope that speaks to someone. Like I literally want that to just sit with someone who may be struggling.
Absolutely.
And they feel like there's no recourse.
And here's a beautiful thing about services, how I operate. You can do a consultation for free with me. You get up to 30 minutes to just ask questions.
Now, can that 30 minutes be broken up? Like 15 minutes here and then the rest of the 15 minutes next week? Like,
no, complete sentence. No.
You practice what you preach.
That's right.
Okay, that's what's up. So I want to talk about, kind of circle back to trauma a little bit.
Absolutely.
I don't want to live there because there's more to the Black American experience than trauma.
Yeah.
There's so much more than that.
Absolutely.
Of course, one of my favorite quotes is that if you begin our history at slavery, then everything after that seems like progress, because our history doesn't begin there. But we've been so steeped in trauma.
Yeah.
Especially like you mentioned, during COVID, we saw racial uprisings after the murder of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, and then many, many more before that and since. So what effect have you seen in your practice that repeated anti-Black violence and death being shown on TV, and it's constant and constant and constant? What effect has that had on your clientele or people that you know in the community?
Absolutely.
Or on us in general? What is that doing to us?
So here's the deal. I am counseling people who look like me through the same thing that I'm trying to process through.
See?
Right?
That's a layer. That is a whole layer.
So here's the thing. So I would not look at news. I would not, because it was just overwhelming for me. It was too much. And so when I would go and get my son from my grandma's house, she just keeps the news going. So I have to look at the replay, and now it's like, oh my gosh, it's in my head. So what did it do? One, it exposed what everybody's been saying forever. I told you I wasn't crazy. I told you this was a thing.
Yeah, because they thought we were crazy.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
They sure did.
Yeah. And then I think number 2, clients were just like, okay, so what do I do after this? Then again, it also brought out stories. Okay, so I want to move forward, but this triggered me because my TT, my uncle, my brother, my cousin, this has been going on forever. And so it actually brought people to disclosure. So now I can see, why are you so anxious? Why are you so depressed? Why you want to pop off all the time? Well, you were hiding something. You were hiding that story because it was so minimized by culture. And so now we have something that we can talk about.
Wow,
and
something to talk about.
And I can guide you through that, because people start to invalidate themselves or their feelings because they keep getting overlooked. So why am I going to keep telling this story, or why am I going to share this with y'all? Y'all going to just say, be strong, or get over it, or that's too bad. And then what?
That's, wow, okay. So basically, what I think I'm hearing you say is that by sharing our personal stories, our personal narrative, we can find some liberation there.
Ooh, and freedom. Like it, and then it gives you language. So that
here we go.
so if someone tells me a story, I can tell them the mental health language behind that. So if someone says to me, I can't sleep, I can't eat, and I always feel on guard, and I would say, well, oh, okay, well, you're having a flashback that's causing you to be hypervigilant on guard, which means your nervous system can't go off.
Okay, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
'Cause this is kind of, I think this is where my mind was trying to grapple with in the beginning of our conversation, with this language that I'm not used to hearing. So basically, you're telling us Black folks that we need to be bilingual.
Yes. And here's the thing. This is language, I think, that's always been there. We just have had limited access, because if people knew what our bodies were going through, we'd be able to challenge our doctors, challenge lawyers, challenge whoever professional, because we know the language too.
Gosh, that's amazing. Wow. Okay, so mistrust. I want to talk about mistrust too.
Let's go.
So you were talking about, just a moment ago, talking to your clients through this repeated the repeated visuals of anti-Black violence, and that this is something that you're dealing with as you're trying to help them cope as well. So, as a Black mental health professional, y'all are few and far between.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find someone and then vet them to make sure they're the right person to fit our needs, right? But then often in Black communities, there's a small pool of us anyway, and a smaller pool of Black professionals in mental health. So then the struggle becomes everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
So how do I know you're not running telling my business?
That's a fact, and I think that is so good to bring up. So a lot of my referrals are from friends of a friend, or my family said. So it's always word of mouth, right?
Sure.
And I always tell people at the beginning, I said, hey, we're only 1 to 3 degrees away from each other. I get that.
Okay, because I know we're all 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon, but we're 1 to 3 from each other.
I would say that.
Wow.
Because I could be in my office
sense.
doing therapy with somebody, but then they're at the vendor show selling their stuff, and I want some.
Yeah.
So I have to share with them what dual role means to me and how much I love my job. Like, I make a joke out of it. Like, I love my job. I don't want to be on KCCI.com. So I signed a form. You signed a form. Your confidentiality is safe with me unless ... You're going to harm yourself, going to commit a crime, going to go kill somebody. So, I make it real clear up front. That's not my job to hear.
So confidentiality is not just a word to you.
Oh, it's not. It's a lifestyle.
I think that's going to free somebody up, because that may be some of the hesitancy behind pursuing mental health care is that mistrust.
Absolutely.
So to hear that you value confidentiality could make all the difference for someone.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. When we sit down in your chair, can we talk about race?
Absolutely.
And then, because that makes me wonder, a lot of our struggle mental health wise comes from discrimination.
Yes.
So how do we know if we're crazy or if we're just going through racism? Like, is there a difference between that? Like, where is that line?
I love these
I don't know
questions.
if my question makes sense.
No, I love them, because listen, people need to know that there is freedom in their therapeutic experience. You are telling me and giving me evidence of what you've gone through. That way I can sprinkle in some stuff, because I always share, you're the expert of your own life. I'm just sprinkling some stuff in that might make it better.
Okay, finger snaps.
Yes.
I don't think I've heard a professional say you're the expert of your own life.
Absolutely. I don't even want to come in and tell you how to run it, because you know how to run it. I want people to feel so confident, so bold, so competent about who they are, that when they say, oh, I need something for that, don't worry, I got a worksheet. See if this works. If it don't, tell me. So I just love to give people autonomy and permission and jurisdiction over their treatment.
I love that. Are there Black solutions for Black problems? And I mean that because, like, everything is so dominant culture centric. That's dominant culture centric. Yep. So there are, popular ways of approaching mental health, and that can usually center the white experience, whatever that may be. It usually has the Black experience on the periphery. Yeah. So what kind of solutions can you offer to Black clientele that center their culture, their ways of knowing, their ways of moving about in the world? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. One, I think it's really important for us all to know our own family history. Number two,
because we don't.
Because we don't. And this is how you know you don't. When you go to the doctor and say, so can you give me your family history about your illnesses and things? And we're like,
That goes back to talking to your family.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So I think we need to know our own family history. I also think that we need to know how our family fit in history, because that gives us a lot of context of where our family was, how it got where it ended up. And then two, if you're going to try to differentiate within your family, what does that look like for you? So you still are rooted in what you love, but also trying to figure out what else you can love outside of that family system.
You mean you can love more things than what's in your familial context? Are you kidding me?
What? Yes, you sure can. You sure can.
Oh, you're freeing up a whole lot of people.
You sure can.
Wow, I love that, because it's really hard to go and see someone who gives you a solution that has worked well in the textbook, or it looks appropriate on paper, but it may not fit the lifestyle or the cultural context that person is in.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that's always missing when people come to me is that no one's never normalized their experience. No one's ever validated I'd be mad too. I'd feel a little jacked up too. No one's ever validated it. So that keeps people stuck. When you give those two people, you give those two formulas or those two traits within therapy, you see progression pretty quickly. Because people are like, oh my gosh, you don't think I'm crazy.
How long does it take to fix somebody? Progression. I don't know. Yeah. I know I'm saying that in a crude way. I don't know.
But it depends on the severity of the trauma.
Yeah.
Okay, so trauma is, to me, and I heard this from Andrew Jacobs, one of my professors, my homie. He said, trauma is anything that happens to you or around you. You didn't ask for it, and you're left by yourself to figure it out.
Shut up. Hold on. Wait a minute. Say that again.
I will. Trauma is anything that happens to you or around you, and you're left by yourself to figure it out. And you didn't ask for any of this stuff, but you're left by yourself to figure it out.
That's everybody. Okay, we're all traumatized.
Facts. Facts.
That's something.
And you know what? Yeah. And it's all on your perception or your POV, your point of view. Someone may think that, breaking a nail is traumatic, but somebody might think losing their grandmother was ultra traumatic. You know what I mean? And so I can't dictate and say, that wasn't traumatic. I don't know how it's impacting you. But yeah, once you know the definition of trauma, and then you're like, oh my gosh, you've had 15, or oh my gosh, you've had 20, or oh my gosh, you've had 5. Bodies are still recovering. If your nervous system is waiting for trouble all the time because you've always had some kind of trauma in your background or in your lens, you're always on. You're always on.
Always on.
Yeah.
No downtime.
And if you are down, you're thinking to yourself a faulty internal message because of your family dynamic. You can't be lazy. You got to get up and work. You got to get up and do this. You can't. You being selfish. Why are you being selfish again? And if people knew the knowledge and the word and the research of the body, you would say different things to other people. You would.
I think you're amazing. Okay, help me out with something.
Okay.
The difference between, this isn't one of my prepared questions.
Okay.
This is just coming up.
Yeah.
So the difference between selfish, self-centered, and self-care. Because, they all could be interchangeable in our community.
And we do say them interchangeably, too. I've heard friends, I've heard myself say, I'm going to be selfish this weekend.
Right.
And then I say it's not a bad thing. Well, depending on the context of the other person listening, they could see it as some negative thing, right? Because they can't have it or they've never been exposed to it. So maybe their interpretation of selfishness is a little bit different. Now, the key word of selfish is self. And so when you think about self, I think about going inward, right? And so a lot of times I need solitude so I can see what's going on with myself. And that, to me, helps to preserve me. And so self-preservation, caring for oneself, making sure I'm eating well, making sure I'm looking all right, making sure, my vitals are okay. So, I think it's layered, but I think it's nothing wrong with it, in my opinion.
Okay, I love that. because self-preservation kind of trumps them all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I was doing during COVID. I'd have clients, and they're talking to me about civil unrest and all the things, and then the BLM and the protesting. And in between sessions, I'd have to pray, or I'd have to look at something positive, or I'd have to go play with my son because I'm trying to preserve so I have enough to give to the next person, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned prayer, and then and I feel like religion has its benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Spirituality, relationship with the higher power, with
Mm-hmm.
God, with however, whatever someone's religious understanding is, that has its benefits.
Absolutely.
But I also think that in some ways, religion has gotten Black people twisted up. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, do you see church hurt? Do you see people with unresolved issues who are waiting on God? I mean, do you see people who just want to pray about Him? What do you tell them?
Well, listen here. Okay. Another soapbox. Everybody knows my pastor, knows my husband is a pastor. Mills is
Oh, wait a minute. We got the first lady in the house.
Hey, how you doing?
How does this work?
Well,
How do you wear both of those hats?
Oh.
No pun intended.
Yeah. So okay. I like to tell people I'm a therapist that's a Christian, right? I'm not doing Christian counseling all day because I know that's not everybody's context. And I know you're not coming to me, for Christian faith or Christian principles. However, if that's something you want to incorporate in your treatment, absolutely. But one thing that I know is this. Religion has created doctrine that cannot be backed up sometimes with spiritual stuff or biblical principles. And so many people get wound up in doing in ritualistic routine that they don't even have a relationship with whoever they feel they're serving.
So you mean like I've got to be there at rehearsal and Bible study and like the ritual of going to
Yes.
the church building
Yes.
and not really connecting to the spiritual component.
Thank you.
Is that right?
Or not even the source.
Wow.
You're doing all these things. You're not even connected to the source.
Just showing up,
Just
ushering
showing up.
and mad.
Just upset. Why are you mad?
We've all had a mad usher and wonder what was wrong with them. Maybe they needed you. I think they needed you. That
I
usher,
don't
those
know.
Mount Hebron ushers, no shade to Mount Hebron. But when I was younger, like those ushers did not play. Always mad. And, yes, we respected those Mount Hebron ushers.
Absolutely.
But I wonder, did they need like some mental health counseling?
They probably needed some relief or just somebody just to hold space for them. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, we need to hold space for the usher board.
You are so funny.
I'm serious. We need to hold space for the usher board. Okay.
Throw some of them deacons in there too.
Oh.
All across the world, okay?
Okay, this is amazing. Okay, so I don't know, confidentiality is important to you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
However, I want to know, like, what is something this like outrageously funny that you've stumbled across in your practice? And I don't want you to like tell on anybody, but I mean, have you ever just heard something that just had you cracking up, or something that just was completely like, I don't know what to do for this person,
Oh, wow. That's a good question. A lot of the times I it's not cracking up for me. It's more of
That's
like.
a bad way to say it.
No. Because there's some
Sorry,
stuff
y'all.
where I be laughing, like,
Yeah.
we laugh about things, right? But then there's other things where my eyes just come out of my head like a cartoon. Like,
Yeah.
you're not even supposed to be sitting here. And I get more of those experiences than like the laughter, because I'm just silly anyway. So we just be in there chopping it up and making. I will tell you something that was funny.
Okay.
Okay, so I was trying to help someone figure out how to find self-care again.
Mm-hmm.
So went back through their history. High school, they liked art and they liked to dance. Girl, don't you know I put a playlist on. I pulled my rug up. I said, let's get it then.
Are you serious?
We was doing the cumbia. We was saucing. We listened to Selena.
You had a whole house party?
We had a house party.
I love
And we was
that.
in there sweating and out of breath. I said, how you feel, girl? She was like, that was so much fun.
Yes.
Yeah, we had fun.
Okay, this is perfect because it's like you reached her where she was.
Absolutely.
That's like embracing the cultural context too.
Mhm.
Okay, go Breanne.
Yeah, I've had people make raps for me and everything. I put a little trap and I'm in the background. Yeah, because you got to get it how you get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so whatever is your strength, we're going to transfer that and put it into your treatment.
Love it. Okay, so this is something that only someone who understands your circumstance, your culture could provide for you.
Yeah, Absolutely.
Okay, we need y'all so bad.
I have a list of 3 pages of therapists of color in our town. So I'll make sure I will give that to you so you can
Please
have
do,
it.
and we'll share that out.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's a list. I mean, that's better than the Christmas list that people are making right now. For Christmas, what list you need? Let me give you this list.
That's right.
So speaking of the holidays, you know, people are stressed out right
Absolutely.
now. And I think it's important for us to really find healthy ways to cope with that. I mean, personally, Thanksgiving just passed, and I don't celebrate traditional American holidays because I want to celebrate my own cultural leanings. So for the last 10 years, we haven't celebrated traditionally Thanksgiving. However, Black folks enjoy a day off. I enjoyed my days off. So we went over to some kinfolk's house and we had a good old time. 36 people showed up. And I was like, oh my God, I really, I don't get down with crowds like I used to, but I found it stressful. It was hard. So what do you tell people? Like, how can we get through these holidays without being broke, busted, upset, still love our family? Like, we want to come out of this loving our family members and the people we care about. So what can we do to cope with all this holiday stuff?
Know your capacity.
Oh,
know your capacity.
Is that got to do with boundaries again?
Yeah, a little bit.
Tell me about
know
that.
what you can do. Know what you can do. Know what you can tolerate, because it changes depending on, where you are in your life. Such back in the day, we used to love parties. I mean, yeah, let's eat, let's kick it, let's play cards and do all the things. I think as you get older, though, as you learn your family context and you just learn things, and then your life changes. You have kids, you got career and things of that nature. And so just know what you can do. And I've always told people, too, know your limit. If you want to go and spend time with your family, cool, but know your time limit and know a code word. I had one lady.
A code word?
Yeah, I had one lady say, I look at my husband and I say, you got some pickles? And that's their way to get out.
Pickles? Okay.
Yep. So know where your keys are, know where your Tupperware is, and get on out of there. Yeah.
Right.
Because I think that you can show love. And here's the thing. The issue is when people start to become aware of the family secrets or the unresolved trauma, people don't want to get around that because it keeps them hypervigilant, because you don't know who's going to pop off. The right drink might get the right fight going, you know what I'm saying? Or the right argument, or someone being bullied in the family, and I can't do that anymore. So know your capacity, know your time limit, but then also know when it's okay to say no to certain family events. That's okay. You can still send Christmas cards and give them some cookies. You can mail it to them.
I love that. So you're telling us to know our capacity.
Absolutely.
What we can tolerate, what our limitations are.
Yep.
Develop some type of code word.
Absolutely.
To get the heck out.
Yep.
And then
just having a time allotment.
A time allotment for being there.
Yep.
And then know when to just flat out say, no, I can't make it. I can't be there.
Yep.
And that's okay to do.
And that's okay.
Okay. I think we're going to make it. I think we're going to make it through the rest of 2023.
Yeah, I think so too.
What about the New Year's? Like resolutions? Should we be making resolutions? Is that safe?
I don't know why people have to wait till January to change their lives.
Come on. We got to change our life every January, and then we're not accountable.
And then we mad.
Yeah.
No, I believe that you should shoot towards goals. I mean that's motivation. It's self starting abilities, all those things. But you don't always have to keep starting over again.
Okay.
You don't have to. Just edit what you've already put out there so it's more applicable to you. People say, I want to drop 15 pounds. Let's start with 5.
Yeah. Start realistic. Be realistic about what you want to do.
Yeah. I want to go to therapy once a week. Well, why don't we just make a goal? I want to make a consultation appointment with a therapist. Make it realistic towards you. So you don't always have that feeling of guilt and shame because you can't keep things together.
Wow. Okay. I think we've got our marching orders. So, Breanne, every episode we ask our guests to bring a book or recommend a book that you've either read or are currently reading that has changed you, is challenging you, or, broadened your perspective. What book recommendation do you have for our listening audience today?
Okay, so I have 2.
Yay. Okay. The more the merrier.
So one of the books that I believe is helpful when we think about racial oppression, systematic oppression, is this book called Out of the Fire. It's by Dr. Jennifer Shepard Payne. And her preface for this is she wants to heal Black trauma that's been caused by systems over and over again, but she wants to use acceptance and commitment to get people over.
Yeah.
So let's accept that bad things happen to us. We don't have to keep trying to get our reparations in which, former world has told us we're entitled to, but let's commit to doing something different, So that one is a good one. And then, something that's spiritually based for me is the book by Dr. Dharius Daniels. It's called Your Purpose is Calling.
Oh, that's an amazing title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of times why people lose steam is they don't know why they're here. And when people don't have the words to talk about their trauma, they sit on it. And so when people get that, and then they're like, okay, so what's next? Well, let's talk about purpose. So Dr. Daniels, Your Purpose is Calling.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I have a book recommendation as well.
Yay.
It's sitting on my shelf right now in the studio. It is called Stay Woke, a meditation guide for the rest of us by Justin Michael Williams. It's like a textbook that you can literally flip through to the section that applies to you. And it gives you breathing techniques you can do, stuff to think about, activities you can kind of distract yourself with. So I found that to be helpful for me. So maybe that'll help somebody. I don't know.
Nice.
You're the expert.
Nice. Well, I want to read it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, this is great. How can our listeners find you, learn more, follow you?
Absolutely. You can Google my name, Breanne Ward. You can go to Forward Consulting, LLC. And you can find me there. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. You're everywhere. That's good.
Yes.
That's good. Please, if you need help, seek out Breanne. If you're not in the Des Moines area, still seek out Breanne, and she can probably point you in the right direction.
Absolutely, I can.
Right. Awesome. Wonderful. Breanne, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It was a good time.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to this insightful episode of Black and Privileged in America podcast. I hope my conversation with Breanne Ward around Black mental health and all of the stuff we talked about, coping with the holiday stress, and even the 3 tips that she gives us, knowing your capacity, what your tolerations are, what you're able to tolerate, knowing how long to stay somewhere, and then developing a code word to get the heck out, and then saying no to events because you just need to chill out. All of that stuff is okay. And I hope it's moved you. I hope it's moved you. Your well-being matters.
Yes,
and it's okay to prioritize your mental health. Let's continue to support each other, break down barriers and stigma, and be a community of understanding. This has been Black and Privileged in America podcast, and I'm your host, Abena Sankofa. Many thanks to our sponsor, Infinite Resources. Follow Amplified DSM Network on Anchor, YouTube, and our very own platform, amplifiedsm.com. Subscribe, leave a review, and share with your colleagues and friends. Check out my website, abenasankofa.com, and thanks for listening. Until next time.
This podcast is brought to you by Infinite Resources, a local staffing agency connecting diverse job candidates in central Iowa companies.
Amplified.